What's up guys, it's me Vlad, and you guys might know that recently I bought a brand new PlayStation VR just to play Gorilla Tag on it and tell you guys, is it worth the purchase of the price of $600? Plus, for it, you need to also own a PS5. Or is the version on Quest 3, Quest 2, and PC better? We are going to determine what is the definitive version of the game, which has better graphics, which has better loading screens, and overall, which is more comfortable to play. As you guys can see, I have both the Quest 3 over here, which I play Gorilla Tag on, and I have the PSVR 2 over here, which I also play Gorilla Tag on. And I'm gonna showcase to you guys side-by-side comparisons of how the games look, although Gorilla Tag is in first-person view during recording on the Quest, while it's in third-person view during the recording on PSVR 2. But while you're playing the game looks pretty much exactly the same through the first person. You need to keep that in mind. And you guys, please press the like button, subscribe if you still haven't, because I spent nearly $1,600 actually to compare the both versions and tell you guys and save you money. You know what I'm saying? While I spend mine. So please subscribe or I'm gonna go bankrupt. And if you already subscribed, make sure to hit that notification bell. Always forget to tell that, man. But please, really helps me out. So, to get started, as you guys can see, this is Gorilla Tag on the actual PS5. You guys can see that one superior thing I want to note before we start is that Gorilla Tag on PS5 actually includes trophies. And you can get a platinum inside of the game pretty much for completely free, with like minimal effort. There are, you know what I'm saying, some certain restrictions such as crossplay and actually, playing the game necessarily feels different because the games are in different updates. We're gonna talk about that a bit later on, but I still appreciate that we get trophies compared to Quest, which technically has trophies. I don't know why Gorilla Tag never added trophies into the game on the Quest, but on PSVR 2 we have trophies and you're able to get the game only in the US currently. That's one big minus. It's US only for US accounts only, but if you are in a different country, you're still able to actually play the game inside of the US account. So you can just create a US account and play the game still. But yeah, let's continue. Okay guys, and the first comparison is between the quality of graphics on both the Quest 3 and the PSVR 2. And on this front, actually in my opinion, the PSVR 2 went way ahead. If you actually play the game through the headset, I don't know how it's gonna be on the video, but the quality of graphics is just much better on the Quest 3. It's not like that notable once you're actually playing the game, but if you look at any text in the game, you are going to be able to see that the actual text looks less pixelated, because I noticed that if you go on the Quest 3 like 10 feet away from any board or any like game mode type of thing where you can read text, it just turns into a mess. You cannot read anything from far distances on the Quest 3. That is not the case on PSVR 2, and that is because you're running directly from PS5. The game is running from PS5 directly, but also I would like to give a point to actually the Quest 3, because we're gonna have a separate comparison between the Quest 3 controllers and PSVR 2 controllers, but I found the tracking to be much more accurate on the Quest 3, because sometimes it's not happening that much. On the actual PSVR 2, you lose tracking. I don't know if it's just me, maybe I'm used to the Quest 3 controllers, I don't know, maybe it's biased, but I just felt like the tracking was more precise on the Quest 3, but again, I'm more used to the Quest 3 controller tracking, so I am not 100% certain that it's because of that. Also, I would like to point out that the colors, just the colors on the Quest 3 aren't the same as PSVR 2. The PSVR 2 colors in HDR just pop, you know what I'm saying? It just looks way brighter, way better as far as the graphics, and in my personal opinion, there is a problem called Fernand's lenses that many people pointed out. If your headset doesn't sit perfectly on your head, the screen may be blurry, and if you actually move your head around, sometimes it may be a little blurry. But if you get everything set up perfectly like I did, at first it was kind of blurry for me, but I got the perfect setup, and after a while I just got kind of like perfect settings, and I would say it looks better than the Quest 3 in my personal opinion, and doesn't, even without my personal opinion, it just looks better because the render distance is set to higher resolution, and you can read text from further away. So that is the comparison on the graphics, you know what I'm saying? I would say that the PlayStation VR 2 takes a point here. But as we thought everything was so great, come in some of the negatives. And these negatives are pretty heavy. And I believe it isn't on the PS5 or PSVR 2 for these negatives, but instead it come onto the developers of the game. The port on PSVR 2 is pretty weird because you guys can notice that actually the port on PSVR 2 requires you to have a PS Plus subscription to play the game, while it being free. You know what I'm saying? The game isn't $20 as it is on PC, but it's free just like the Quest 3 or Quest 2 version. But that is pretty weird because all of the free games on PlayStation, such as Fortnite, such as Apex Legends, such as Call of Duty Warzone, don't require PS Plus subscriptions in order to play multiplayer. And the Gorilla Tag is actually the only exception I personally know of. If you know any other exceptions, let me know in the comments. But I wouldn't say that's a big issue because the game is mainly targeted towards the players who already play on PlayStation. And most of the people who already play on PlayStation have a PS Plus subscription. You guys can see this is some of my friends list. I've been adding some of y'all, so if y'all want me to add you, just send a DM. But y'all can notice like a bunch of people have a PS Plus subscription, including me, and that is one of the minuses I wanted to point out. Also, one of the big downsides I noticed is that the game doesn't run on the current version of the Gorilla Tag that the Quest 3 and the PC VR runs on. You guys can notice that the game is actually set in an older update. It's set in the Metropolis update that was released approximately 3 months ago. And because of this, you can notice that the city looks vastly different from what it looks like on the Quest 3. And that is because the city revamp update isn't in the game. It's just not in the game, and for whatever reason, there are weird inconsistencies. For example, the rocket inside of the game actually is black on PSVR 2. The same rocket inside of the Quest 3 was always white, orange, and black. So I don't know, the design is different for whatever reason. The actual game runs on a different update, and I'm not sure if the game is going to be getting the consistent updates that the actual version on PC and the Quest 3 gets. And that is because tomorrow is the update of Monkey Blocks, and we're gonna find out if the game is gonna get updated on PSVR 2. I'm gonna update you guys either in the comments or just make a video tomorrow. But I most likely doubt that there are some issues that require them to push the updates back. And I think that if they keep on updating the game, some of the trophies inside of the game may break, and that's why we don't have trophies inside of the game on the Quest 3. It's just kind of in a weird state, personally, I feel like, because it is not that far off. The current version features the New Sky revamp. The current version features pretty much every map that we have in the game currently, but it just, for some reason, doesn't feature the city revamp. I don't know why not. You know, it's not up to me why the game runs on an older version, but all of the multiplayer is actually working in the game. Also, then comes in the question of the comfort. Is the Quest 3 more comfortable than the PSVR 2? You guys can see over here. And actually, I wouldn't say certain, because you guys can notice that obviously we have a huge cable coming in with the PSVR 2. But I actually found the strap, the default strap on the Quest 3, much better than the default strap on the Quest 3. The PSVR 2, in my opinion, like it accelerates on that part, but it has a downside that it uses a cable. So obviously you are going to get tangled in the cable if you don't use the snap turning. Also, the Quest 3 is much more customizable than the PSVR 2. There are certain accessories on PSVR 2 by Globular Cluster. Big shout out to them. They were one of my sponsors on the channel. But the Quest 3 just has way more choice, way more companies producing accessories. And overall, like, I feel like the actual PSVR 2 feels less heavy on the head, while the Quest 3 just kind of like, it's just kind of heavy on the front end, because like the battery in the back is not a thing really unless you buy a separate strap. So default, I would say the comfort on PSVR 2 is better besides the wire. If you don't mind the wire, it's gonna be great. If you mind the wire, you're gonna hate it. But if you never tried the wire, like you may actually try it, and after like an hour, you're gonna forget there's a wire, realistically. So I would just say that it's kind of a tie over here, because default experience on the Quest 3 is much worse than on PSVR 2. But after you mod and buy a separate head strap on the Quest 3, it becomes kind of an equal, I would say. So, you know, like, it's a short plus for me on the PSVR 2, but since I use a cable, I'm just gonna give it a tie, in my personal opinion. There is one pretty big inconsistency that I noticed on the PS5 version of the game, and it is that you have loading screens. For whatever reason, you have loading screens inside of the game. And while they're not that critical, you guys will be able to see on my screen that you have loading screens if you go to the mountains, if you go to the Metropolis map, if you go to the rotating map, if you go into pretty much any map that has a long way, you can notice that there are loading screens. Also, some of the maps that, as I've said before, are not featured in the game. We don't have sewers inside of the game because this is an older update, but that can be updated. And I hope loading screens are going to get loaded out, you know what I'm saying, pun intended, because I just find that the PlayStation 5 has a much powerful or more powerful hardware than the standard chip on the Quest 3. So I don't find any reason there to be a loading screen, because the game runs on an SSD. If you play Spider-Man, you can notice that the game, if you fast travel to any point inside of the actual map, you get there in 3 seconds from the time you click on the button. So I find it strange that the game doesn't have loading screens on the Quest 3 and it does on PS5. So that kind of leads me to the question if maybe that's an issue with the port and not necessarily the console itself. I think the port maybe was rushed, maybe like it wasn't just good code inside of there. For some reason it just breaks. But there are loading screens and they're not that notable. You're probably gonna see a loading screen maybe 1 or 2 times you play the game if you play for a couple hours. Like, you don't have a loading screen if you go to a beach. You don't have a loading screen if you go into the canyons. You don't have a loading screen if you go from forest to the city. But for some reason, some maps feature loading screens. So that's kind of an issue. Maybe that's to prevent people from actually climbing out of the map, because I've seen that on the Quest 3, if you boot up the game fast enough and go into the mountains entrance, you can actually just climb out of the map. So maybe that's to actually reduce the glitches. And the glitch is actually the next category I wanted to talk. So for the glitches, you might think, Vlad, PSVR 2 version of actually Gorilla Tag just came out. There must be a ton of glitches. But actually, I haven't found a single glitch. I have yet to encounter a single glitch inside of the game that is in there. You know what I'm saying? There are no glitches that I personally found. Maybe that's why they wanted to release it on an older version to work out the glitches on a new one. So I don't know, man. There are no glitches I found. It just runs smoothly. While running works. Everything works just as the base game does. And one downside I'm gonna give it is gonna be in the next part. Gorilla Tag on PSVR 2 and PS5 doesn't have crossplay, and that is kind of exclusive to this port because every other port that we previously had, the PC, Quest 2, Quest 3, Quest Pro, is able to play Gorilla Tag with each other. PSVR 2 version though is isolated to PSVR 2 and PS5 players only. You cannot play with your friends who have a Quest 3 or with your friends who have a Quest 2 or a PC. You're only allowed to play with people who have actually a PS5 and PSVR 2. And that is a pretty big issue because it means that the lobbies aren't as populated. While we have 16,000 people currently playing on the game inside of the actual Quest 3, we only have about 130 people playing the game on PSVR 2. And while those numbers are actually much higher than many game, even on the Quest 3 in multiplayer, I would still say that I tried joining a mini games queue inside of the beach map. I couldn't find anybody. I tried to join the competitive queue inside of the beach map. I couldn't find anybody. I tried joining the hunt game mode on the basic queue. I couldn't find anybody. I tried to join the paintball game mode. I couldn't find anybody. Even on the casual game mode inside of the beach map, I wasn't able to find anybody. The only person I was able to find was a single person inside of the infection lobby on the beach map. And keep in mind, beach map is one of the most popular maps in Gorilla Tag. Most of the people who you're able to find are inside of the forest playing infection. And even then, I tried joining a lobby and I found a lobby with 6 people. If I tried joining a casual lobby, there are only about 3 or 4 people inside of the forest. So the population with the amount of maps inside of the game actually kind of just plays against the PSVR 2, and I find it kind of good that we don't have the sewers map in the game, because technically on content side it would give you more maps inside of the game, but there are no people playing that map. So what would it really add? Like, maybe you can play with your friends or something in a private lobby, but you wouldn't really be able to find people to play with. And I believe that crossplay issue is why this game requires PS Plus. I believe that Sony is providing services and servers for the game on PSVR 2 and PS5, and that is why pretty much you're required to pay for PS Plus, as well as pretty much just play the game without crossplay, because it's set on different servers. And actually, one benefit for me, there's one benefit that there's no crossplay. Like, while there are a bunch of negatives, you cannot find that many people to play with, you cannot play with your friends on other platforms, there is one positive, and that is that recently I encountered the numerous, man, the most amount of modders I've ever seen in Gorilla Tag. Just in basic lobbies, I can find people flying, man. Like, it's kind of crazy, man. And PSVR 2 doesn't have modders. That's the best part about the game. PSVR 2 doesn't have modders inside of the game. That means that nobody will be cheating inside of the game. So everyone is playing on equal grounds. And that is a big plus for me personally, because I already have a Quest 3, so I can play with my friends or everybody inside of there, man. But PSVR 2 is good if you want to play with other people who are, you know what I'm saying, playing legitimate without any mods. So then, you know what I'm saying, since you cannot mod the game on PS5, you're kind of just like in the bonus necessarily. But still big issue. I hope they fix it in the later updates. That is something that may get fixed, but I assume it won't be. I think there are higher chances that we're gonna get new updates with new maps, but there is a very low chance that we're gonna have servers just being changed outright inside of the game, because that's a huge move. So I wouldn't expect this to change anytime soon. So just keep that in mind. You know, personally, while I was playing the game, I actually quite liked it, because a lot of players who actually just started playing the game are pretty bad at the game. So, you know what I'm saying? I was kind of like actually one of the best players in the lobby. But still, you know what I'm saying? There are a lot of sweats inside of the game who came from like Quest 2 or Quest 3 wall running. Maybe there are a couple people in the lobby wall running and stuff like this. But I found the community on actually PSVR 2 to be kind of just newer. Just kind of like once Gorilla Tag just released on the Quest or PC, that's kind of the state that Gorilla Tag is in inside of PSVR 2, like the community. Like a lot of players are new to the game, and some are old though, you know what I'm saying? They're kind of dominating the lobbies, but yeah, still, you know what I'm saying? Kind of interesting topic to talk about without crossplay. Controllers are the most important part about gaming overall, and that is why companies such as Sony, such as Xbox invest billions upon billions of dollars into their controllers, making them more ergonomic, making them actually with more technologies, and just better to use overall. And this applies to VR even more, because imagine you're the last person standing inside of a Gorilla Tag lobby, and you're branching away from 8 people, man, and you actually missed that last branch because your controllers didn't track your movement properly. Or imagine you're wall running away from like 10 people, man. You're going to actually lose tracking and fall down from the wall because you couldn't properly hit the wall due to your controllers. That's why I think controllers are literally the most important part about playing the games in VR. And the Quest as well as PSVR 2 controllers are vastly different, and we need to compare them. You guys can see that this is the Quest 3 Plus controller, and you guys can see that these controllers actually are kind of similar to the Quest 2. You can notice that this controller just doesn't have a ring, and in my opinion it's vastly better than the Quest 2 controller. It's less bulkier, it weighs less, and it's actually much more kind of better at tracking your movement. On the contrary, we can see that the PSVR 2 controller looks nothing like both of those. It looks kind of like a stick that you just put your hand through, and you guys can notice that it sits really nice inside of your hand. Like, I feel like this controller is better at sitting in your hand than the Quest Plus, while the actual controller itself is also being protected by these rings around it. You guys can see that if you just drop it, it doesn't fall down. This is pretty good because imagine you're playing Gorilla Tag and you like threw your controller, your sister through the controller, man. On the Quest, you're just gonna lose the controller. It's just gonna fly into a TV or something. On the Quest or PSVR 2, they're just gonna fall down like this. Like, I cannot even drop the controller if I'm trying to. Like you guys can see, which is really nice. But I would say that actually the Quest 3 controllers, in my opinion, are miles better than the PSVR 2. While the PSVR 2 controllers have the technology such as the adaptive triggers, which actually are harder to press in certain games such as Horizon Forbidden West, just like the mainline DualSense controller, it falls flat once you actually get to the game. The tracking, in my opinion, is miles better on the lighter, better Quest 3 controller than the PSVR 2. Also, if you, for example, throw the controller in the wall and it breaks, which is more like to happen with this controller because of these rings, actually you won't be able to replace this controller. You cannot buy the controller separately with the PSVR 2. In addition to this, the controllers are differently charged. So the PSVR 2 controllers actually use the same controller charging, kind of like the Quest Pro, where you have the charging USB-C over here. I use the charging dock, so I just put it down and boom, it charges. And it lasts only like 5 to 6 hours, which is enough time for me personally. I just put them down and they charge. But the Quest 3 controllers uses batteries. And in my opinion, the batteries are much better in VR because, for example, I prefer battery charging on the PS5 controller because you can still use it. You can just connect the cable to it while playing the games. On VR, you cannot do the same. If your controller is dead, you have to actually exit out of the game and just wait for it to charge. You cannot just like go around playing the game while the controller is charging. And in my opinion, the Quest controller with batteries is actually much better. I use Duracell batteries and these last like a month. So much better controllers in my opinion are the Quest 3. But I admire the technology that the PlayStation VR 2 uses. Just that Gorilla Tag doesn't use that technology. Like the rumbling isn't really there. The actual adaptive triggers aren't working inside of the game. It's kind of weird because most of the features that are inside of PSVR 2 don't work inside of Gorilla Tag. They didn't bother adding eye tracking. They didn't bother adding rumbling inside of the headset once you get tagged for whatever reason. Maybe due to laziness, maybe due to lack of time. But this is the comparison between both controllers. In my opinion, the controllers on the Quest are much better because you can simply rebuy them. You can rebuy them from Quest and they'll send you even a unit sometimes for free if your controllers are under warranty. The same cannot be said with these controllers over here, sadly. So let's get to more comparisons because what PSVR 2 lacks in actually makes up for it a bit later on. So after so much testing, after so much of gaming on both headsets, what is a better headset, you may ask me? And actually, both headsets have their own pros. For example, the PSVR 2 has insane eye tracking inside of it. The next headset that has eye tracking is actually a Quest Pro, which costs over $1,000. While this headset is like half the price. It features the first of all time vibrational motors inside of the headset. So for example, if someone shoots you in the head inside of the game, the headset is going to be vibrating just like your controllers, which adds to the immersion. It actually has HDR screens with OLED displays, which feature true blacks inside of the game, while still having Fernand's lenses. And the Quest 3 actually is fully wireless. It runs on its own. You don't need a PS5 to use it. It has colored mixed reality, while PSVR 2 has a gray mixed reality, just like the Quest 2, but with kind of better quality cameras. The actual PSVR 2 also kind of goes back on to actually the Quest 3. Yeah, the Quest 3 has more kind of accessories. It has more players. Nowadays there are more exclusive games coming to the Quest 3, and both headsets have their own pros and cons, man. And this video isn't really telling you guys which one to buy, because you guys should look into both for equal amount of time and find out what's better for you. If you're just a kid that wants to play games, that just wants to actually run around, doesn't want to set anything up, the Quest 3 would be better for you, because it's much easier to actually just play around, just set up, boom, you're ready to go and play the game. If you want to play more high quality games, if you want to have games such as Horizon Call of the Mountain, such as Gran Turismo 7, such as Resident Evil 4, which is a remake and a Game of the Year contender for last year, not for VR, but just for overall games, and has a separate pretty much a VR game mode, and just wants to play more higher quality games if you already have a PS5. So you gotta ask, yourself a lot of questions. And overall, I think for Gorilla Tag, the version on the Quest 3 is better because it gets more attention, more updates, and probably a lot of glitches on PSVR 2 are gonna take longer time to fix. I haven't found any myself, but you may find any, some yourself. And the game gets updated more, so I feel like the Gorilla Tag on the PSVR 2 is kind of an afterthought of the Quest 3 version, because the Quest 3 is the mainline version. The most people play it. It's gonna get the most quality and the most actual kind of attention by the game developers, while the Quest or PSVR 2 is just gonna be there, just sitting. And I don't even know if it's gonna get any updates in the future. I mean, the game is good overall if you already have a PSVR 2. You know what I'm saying? The game is good if you already have a PSVR 2. That's the clear distinction. You shouldn't go ahead and buy the headset for it necessarily. You may go and buy the headset for other games, such as Resident Evil, such as this, and maybe including Gorilla Tag. But you shouldn't exclusively buy this headset for this game. If you're exclusively buying the headset for Gorilla Tag, I would say that the Quest 3S is much better. I have a Quest 3 over here. I have a Quest 3S over there. So if you're maybe a parent that's looking to buy your kid a headset, go for the Quest 3S. If you maybe are a bit older, grown up, the Quest 3 is gonna be much better. If you want like different kind of like game style type of thing, go for the actual PSVR 2 if you already have a PS5. And by the way, guys, many people have said that Vlad, PSVR 2 is actually so much more expensive than the Quest 3. It doesn't make any sense, but PSVR 2 isn't competing with the Quest 3. PSVR 2 is mainly competing with the PC market. And for PC, you have to pay like $1,500 for a decent PC that is gonna run Gorilla Tag and other games in a really high quality. Okay, not Gorilla Tag, but like other games in similar quality that like actually PS5 runs. So if you're thinking, if you're comparing a VR headset plus a PC between PSVR 2 plus the actual PS5, you're going to save a lot of money by buying PSVR 2 and PS5. But yeah, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I don't really think PSVR 2 is that like great of a purchase nowadays, because we have seen that Sony is kind of abandoning it. They closed down some of the studios who are making PSVR 2 and PSVR 1 games, and like overall it has less games. It has kind of just more high quality games, but still, you know what I'm saying? I feel like Quest 3 wins the race overall if you consider everything included, like the PC support, everything. The actual Quest wins on this part. So, my opinion, the Quest 3 is the best headset for Gorilla Tag, but it's controversial because obviously it depends on what you, the viewer, want to play. Make sure to drop a like under this video, subscribe if you still haven't. This video took me 25 years to make, so I'd highly appreciate some support. And yeah, see you guys in the next one. I'm out. Peace.